Today we're interviewing Professor Jerry Heng, the Editor-in-Chief of Chemical Engineering Research and Design. Jerry, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Brad.
So Jerry, can you tell us first a bit, you're relatively new as Editor-in-Chief for the journal, so can you tell us about how you got involved with Chemical Engineering Research and Design and how you came to be Editor-in-Chief?
Yes, you're absolutely right. I took over the role as Editor-in-Chief just a few months ago in January 2021, having first deputized Professor Eva Sorensen, the outgoing Editor-in-Chief, for about 2 years, and preceding that, can't remember, for about 6-7 years, I was subject editor within the particle technology core area.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about particle technology, about your research in the area and how that relates? Because it's a very broad spectrum of research that's covered by the...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm happy to talk about particle technology for hours on end, but I shall try to keep it to a short, brief one. I'm interested in solid materials, typically organic solid materials, of which are pharmaceutically relevant. So I'm interested in their surfaces and their interfacial, intermolecular, interparticle interactions, and how that governs the ability to manufacture them, to formulate them, and to make useful pharmaceutical products.
Great, great. Okay, so this is sort of one topic area of the journal, but the journal is a very broad journal that covers all of chemical engineering research and I guess some more of the industrial aspects of chemical engineering as well. So yeah, could you talk a bit about the breadth of the journal?
Yeah, certainly. So chemical engineering research and design, I think, is very unique in that respect, that we cover all aspects of chemical engineering, from separations through to process systems engineering, fluid flow, heat and mass transfer, of course, particle technology. So it encompasses the breadth and also the depth of chemical engineering, a discipline which is truly very, very rich.
Awesome, awesome. And I mean, I personally have been a subject editor in the separations division for a while, and I personally handle manuscripts in the area of membrane science and engineering, and I know that chemical engineering research and design has quite a history of publishing great contributions in this.
We continually evolve. I guess chemical engineering does not only publish in the core discipline of chemical engineering. We are publishing in areas, as you mentioned, in purification, separation, wastewater, environmental, through to climate, energy, biotechnology, as the discipline evolves and continually play a very important role in society.
So how do you make sure that the journal keeps up with those evolving trends in the field of chemical engineering? What are the ways that you make sure that the journal continues to reflect the discipline?
I can't do this myself. I think I'm absolutely fortunate to work with a group of talented editors. Our editorial board made up of fantastic experts in a wide range of discipline. We take advice from, of course, our consultants, our editorial consultants, from our editorial office. It's a collective effort, essentially, Brett. So the success of CHERT is only down to the fantastic volunteering efforts of our editorial board, of our authors, of our reviewers, of everyone involved in the journey. I'm only very lucky to be in this position to take that sort of leadership role within CHERT.
Super. So what about, we talk about some of the diversity of the authors within the journal, because you have very good statistics. You know the countries, for example, where contributing authors are coming from. So can you tell us a little bit about what the journal is like at the moment in terms of that sort of geographical diversity and maybe where you would like it to go in the future?
So Chemical Engineering Research and Design is an IChemE, our learner institution in the United Kingdom's publication. It is also an official journal for the European Federation of Chemical Engineers. So we get a large proportion of our submissions coming from Europe, probably about a fifth. A huge proportion of our publications, our submissions also come from Asia. We do have contributions from North America, of course, from Australia, if people can tell from your accent.
That's right. Just full disclosure for anyone watching this interview that I originally come from Australia.
we have some submissions from Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, but I would like to grow our presence and to bring CHERD to become not only a leading journal in chemical engineering, but an internationally recognized and leading journal publishing high quality research work in chemical engineering. And that means also reaching out to our colleagues across Latin America, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Argentina, Chile, through to our African colleagues, and also in the Middle East. I think those are regions that we have not reached out as much as I'd like to see CHERD being recognized and having a presence to serve our authors and readers.
That's a good point, because I guess in the Middle East there's two big things happening. There's a very rapid growth in quite high flight research institutions, but at the same time it's an enormous area of industrial growth in chemical engineering, not just from the petrochemical historical industry, but overall in all aspects of the petrochemical industry.
I think the world is getting like a smaller place now. I know we've not been traveling over the last 12 months. Most of us haven't, at least. But it is really interconnected. We collaborate internationally. We work with partners across the world. And I think those boundaries have sort of removed boundaries geographically. I am referring to. And so I like to work and bring CHERD to become a little bit more present across some of those regions.
Great. So that really leads into me asking you, what are the sort of concrete measures, or what are the initiatives that you've got planned for CHERD to really broaden that geographical spread?
We're trying to kill a couple of birds with a stone, probably, in one of the first initiatives. We have just launched what we call the Rising Star program. And within the Rising Star program, we were having a collection of, within at least a special issue, maybe a couple of them, to recognize the talent that we have in our pipeline, those who are maybe breaking through with their first academic positions, maybe a postdoctoral fellowship already in place, and or really emerging rising star, rising talent within the chemical engineering field across the globe. And we solicited recommendations. We had a fantastic response to that. And I'm glad to say that all our invited contributors have accepted. So,
Brilliant.
Watch this space. In a few months to come, we hope to be able to launch that program fully.
So those authors will be contributing a research paper each. That's what you've got planned?
Absolutely, that's correct.
Super. And I hope that we can use this new form of outreach through social media to interview a couple of those rising stars as well, or perhaps even interview all of them.
Put that in as a requirement for contribution. I should have, but I'm sure most of our future pipeline, our future talent or rising stars will be delighted to be profiled. I hope so.
Super, super. Because like you said about killing multiple birds with one stone, we are all in the business of win-win. So anything that can enhance the quality of our journal, like featuring the talent and the research from these young researchers, but at the same time could benefit their careers, for example, by getting them some further exposure, maybe building new collaborations and new networks internationally, that's a win-win. So we would obviously...
You're right, ever so more important now with the current pandemic. Conferences have multiple purposes, likewise journals, likewise a social media like this. Mm-hmm. It's to promote the journal, it's for networking, it's to highlight the excellent work of our community.
Excellent, excellent. So you've talked a little bit about the geographical spread of authors. How is the journal currently with the geographical spread of editors? I mean, how many editors do you have, and how are they distributed around the world? And is that something that you also are aiming to grow and change?
Again, yes. We have about 50 editorial members on the board currently, of which a quarter will be from the UK, about another fifth would be from Europe. We do have a spread in North America, in Asia. We have a couple in Singapore, Malaysia, a couple in Australia, about 10% in China, if I remember all the numbers correctly. But we only have, I think, one in Brazil, and we have none currently in quite a large part of Africa, Middle East region. And again, I like to grow of course, our presence also on the editorial board across into areas that we're not currently supporting our readership and our authorships.
Brilliant. We have recently launched, people watching this video will be watching it through some social media, through YouTube or Twitter, for example. Can you tell us a little bit about how the journal is embracing social media and what's your vision for that? What do you expect social media to bring to Churd?
I think it's a very powerful tool. But firstly, I have to say thank you very much, Brett, for taking on the challenge as our social media editor for Churd. It's a very new initiative that we've also launched. The use of social media is really for us to reach out to our international readership and authorship. We really want to use it as a platform to communicate our excellent work, editorial picks, to highlight cover issues or articles, to highlight special issues, to mention our initiatives, to give a presence for editors, for example, myself, you, our editorial board, to speak and to talk to connect with our authors and readership. So I see the platform that we have currently on Twitter, for example, as one of the ways for us to communicate and link out with our authors and our readers.
Excellent. Super. Look, I totally agree with you. I think absolutely all of those things are correct. Social media is an awesome way to get further outreach, to make sure that the great articles that we're publishing in our journal get in front of the eyes of more people than they are getting at the moment. And that's a great thing for our authors in particular, because they've put in all the effort to do this research, to write these papers. Can you tell us a bit more about where you see the journal going, or what particular relationship you see between the journal and industry? Because chemical engineering is a little bit different to other disciplines like chemistry, because we are so closely tied to delivering scientific solutions to industry.
I can speak about chemical engineering for sure. And I mean, we've seen chemical engineers work at multiple interfaces, be that between chemistry and chemical engineering, or with electrical engineering, with mechanical, with life sciences, with medicine. But one of the huge I wouldn't say differentiator here, but one of the main things that chemical engineers often get to do, which I personally do enjoy, is to work very closely with industry. Yeah. We see a lot of the translation of our research work through to industry. We see how that makes an impact quite immediately as well. Mm-hmm. And I very often we see papers coming through with contributions not only from academia but also with our industrial colleagues. That's an area that we ought to continue to grow in. There's some room still to reach out to our industrial colleagues, and that be in publications and through to on the editorial board as well.
Super, because I personally know of many chemical engineering colleagues that are very passionate about sustainability, that see the decades ahead, in particular in terms of technologies around water, energy, environment, consumer goods and healthcare goods, that will require enormous technological changes to basically make them sustainable, so that they can be part of a sustainable future. And these will require inordinate amounts of work from all kinds of different people, but especially chemical engineers, because chemical engineers are working at that interface between science, technology, engineering, and I guess to a larger extent with business and things like that as well, and the finance and the economic viability of things. So have you got a focus on sustainability? Have you done anything recently with sustainability with the journal?
Yes, it is one of the main things. Climate change, sustainability, they are very high on the agenda, not only for the journal, but of course within the IChemE as well. And we had put through nominations, of course, from a selection of papers. I would see that continue to be an important area for the foreseeable future. Really, it's not something that is not a matter of would we like to do it or not, from a perspective of industrial challenges through to research in academia. It's probably going to be core and integral to many aspects of what we do in in academia and in industry. Could I maybe divert a little bit from there as well, actually, Brett? I think it's also very important to think about sustainability from a workload balance perspective. And I think we ought to say a huge thank you to everyone who contributes to the success of the journal. We are only where we are because of the contributions from our authors, our researchers, from the different walks of life, every level, and contributing towards the papers that we receive. Our editorial board, our editorial office, Catherine Cliff and Pippa Wright at ICAME helps tremendously with the background on getting the journals going. But we should also not forget our reviewers who constantly feed back through with very high quality, critical, useful comments for editors and us to make decisions on submissions. So the whole process really, also requires a degree of that sustainability sort of thinking that, we need to balance out and ensure that we do not overkill the system.
Jerry, thank you so much for your time today. It's been wonderful to hear about your involvement with the journal, to really share what you have planned for the journal, and really to be a part of this journey, to see the journal become more international, continue to focus on excellent material, and becoming more diverse, to feature the research from younger authors from historically underrepresented parts of the world, and really to become a modern, international and excellent chemical engineering journal. That's a fun place to work. I'm very happy to be here as an editor and now the social media editor, and we look forward to many successful years of growth under you as our editor-in-chief. Thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Brett.